Calculus Kids, this is Dr. Callahan for week 12, Thursday. How are you guys doing? I hope you had a wonderful Wednesday off, and Thursday and Friday are going to be a full-on distance learning day. So I hope you guys are ready to go over your notes over YouTube with me, which is completely fine, but we'll just go ahead and do exactly what we do in class so we're not skipping a beat. So go ahead and pause the video and answer the following 3 questions on your warm-up log, and we will go over them shortly. Okay, so we're talking about critical numbers for the testing of the max and min. So then looking at this part right here, it is a trig function. So you have to go ahead and find the first derivative to set it equal to 0 in order to find the x value for the critical point. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and do h prime of x is equal to, another way of writing sine squared x is just sine x squared. And keep in mind that if you're going to write it like this, you are going to, you can use the chain rule, but if you would like, you can go ahead and set, just say let u be sine x. U prime is cosine x. So then if I replace this, this will just be a u squared. So when you find the derivative of u squared, it will be 2u to the 1 power times u prime. Just be careful. One of them is a u prime, the other one's actually to a 1 power. So I think I'm just going to erase that just so we don't get confused. So then the derivative of that will be 2 sine x cosine x. So that is my first derivative. 2 sine x cosine x. Plus derivative of cosine is negative sine x. So there we go. If you look at your interval, it's between 0 to 2 pi, so that's the entire unit circle. And looking at this, I am going to set it equal to 0. My goal is to go ahead and solve for x. Hopefully, I'll be able to have, set this up so that way I have like a sine x equal to something and cosine x equal to something, and then I can look at my unit circle and then figure out what my answer will be. I can see that both of these share a sine x, so let's go ahead and try to take that out. So I have sine x going back into the parenthesis, 2 cosine x minus 1 equals 0. So then I'm going to set these individually equal to 0. So I have sine x equal to 0, and then 2 cosine x minus 1 equal to 0. Well, as sine x equal to 0, you can take a look that, remember, it's always cosine first and then sine after that. So then at this point, you can take a look that it is right here, and it is going to give you just a pi. So then my x is going to equal to just pi. Now I know this one also has it, but at 0, take a look at the interval. It's not including the 0, so we're not going to use that one. So there's your first critical point. And then looking at the second one, you want to go ahead and have cosine x is equal to 1 over 2. So then at 1 over 2, and remember it's always cosine first, followed by sine. I have this one right here, which is going to be x is equal to pi over 3. And just keep in mind, you're not going to be able to have this on the actual test. So you have to memorize this from trigonometry if you haven't done so already. And then 1/2 is 5 pi over 3. This is your critical point. Both of these, the pi over 3 and the 5 pi over 3, is within the interval of 0 to 2 pi. So these 3 are your critical points. Now let's take a look at this one here. So in order for us to find the max and min, you are going to have to rewrite the f of x. So I'm going to rewrite it as f of x is equal to 4 minus x squared to the 1/2. You could go ahead and do a u substitution and just say let u equals 4 minus x squared. Then u prime will be negative 2x. And so if I go ahead and rewrite this, I'll have f of x is equal to u to the 1/2. So then f prime of x is going to be, bring the 1/2 down, u to the negative 1/2 times u prime. Now I'm going to go ahead and replace everything back. So f prime of x is equal to 1/2 u, bring it down to the bottom. So I have 4 minus x squared to positive 1/2 times u prime, which is a negative 2x. Now I can tell that I can cancel out the 2 right there, and I have f prime of x is equal to, in my negative or numerator, I have a negative x. In my denominator, I am going to have a square root of 4 minus x squared, which is equal to 0. Okay, so then my goal here is to go ahead and find x. So then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and set the numerator equal to 0, and you can also set the denominator equal to 0. So numerator, set it equal to 0. Denominator, set it equal to 0. Negative x equal to 0, so x equals 0 is your first critical point. On the bottom, 4 minus x squared to the 1/2 equals 0. If I were to go ahead and just square both sides, 1/2 times a 2 is going to give me a 1. So I have 4 minus x squared equals 0 squared, or to the second power, is just 0. I didn't mean square, I mean to the second power. Sorry about that. Subtract the 4 on both sides. You have a negative x squared equals a negative 4. And then I'm going to get rid of the negative. So positive x squared equals a positive 4. Square root of x equals a positive and a negative 2 as your critical point. Now, you do have two conditions here. A is between negative 2 to positive 2, and they're included. So here's negative 2, here's 0, here's positive 2. And again, it's a bracket, so it's included. So for A, your critical points are 0, negative 2, and positive 2. Okay, and then for B, given the fact that it's from 1 to 2, you actually do not have any critical points that are actually included here. So it's just no critical point. But going back to A, if you were to go ahead and find your max and min, you will plug this back into the F value. So F of a negative 2, F of 0, F of positive 2. And then find the Y value. And remember, you always want to do the second calc value option because that's the simplest thing to do. And you should be able to see that the Y value is going to be 0, 2, and 0. So then these two will be your absolute minimum. And this one here is your absolute maximum. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move on forward. So last time I saw you guys, this is what we did. We did the video guided notes from the textbook. I hope you guys practiced with that because it did introduce you guys to trigonometric, it did introduce you guys to finding the critical points and extremas involving trig functions. I also have my notes that was typed up, so go ahead and take a look at that with 4 examples. And then we did a rotation with a QR code, so in case you needed to go over the examples, you had the opportunity to do that. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and get started with today's stuff. This is your breakdown. I have your guided notes with a video, and this is actually a video from the Texas University, and it's a professor who's actually explaining it. I always believe that it's important to give you guys the full exposure, not just me explaining it, but also getting the experience of, you know, how the concept is thought out, how it is done and, you know, and derived from another person and from another lens, a different perspective. Afterwards, I have a group work for you guys, although the group work is more like an individual work that you can work by yourself. I'm going to give you guys 10 multiple choice questions, and you're going to find the max and min to it. All right, so with that said, let's take a look at our notes today. This is your note for critical point in the first derivative test, and it is going to go over a video with you guys, and I'm going to play that video in a minute. Although if you want to play it by yourself, I do have the link right here, capital S, capital J. It's on a Dropbox, so you will have to download the Dropbox as well. All right, and then let's go ahead and just get started with that. So you guys should be here. And have you go ahead and watch the video, and we will move from there. All right, you guys. So hopefully you have now completed your guided notes, which is awesome. So then we're going to go ahead and proceed forward with this part right here. So turn over to your template. You have 10 questions here. So you just want to show your work on this template right here. And I have the questions that's going to be asking you about the max and min of certain things, such as like the rectangle, and it's multiple choice. So here is questions 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can pause the video. And then here's questions 5 and 6, and questions 7, 8, 9, and questions 10. Now, if you would like access to this, you do have that option. So I'm just going to scroll all the way back up to the breakdown for today. And you can also just type in this tiny URL right here in white. It's tinyurl.com/JHV8SXYF. And if you go ahead and type that in, you will have access to these questions right here. And if you need some help, they do offer some suggestions of how to find it. And you just finish this, pick the right question, and I'll tell you if you have the right answers or not. In addition, I'll show you the steps specifically, and then you just go on to the next question. So here is question number 2. If you pick the wrong answer, it will still show you the steps right here. So make sure you go over all 10 questions. Okay, so then once you are done with that, your last thing that I want you guys to do is a Flipgrid. So you are to go to this Flipgrid link right here. You can go ahead and type that in. It's just flipgrid.com/7044FB8F. And the password is just Hug High School, HS for high school. And then you should have 1, 2, 3. And you should have access to this Flipgrid. And it asks you the following questions, okay, for week 12 Thursday. It says, number 1, read the notes and examples on this link for critical points. Pick an example, explain how you approach solving the steps. You can go ahead and record yourself and I'll be able to access it. Number 2, read the notes and example on this for max and min. Pick an example and explain the steps of the problem. If you would like some bonus brownie points, you can maybe make a comment on other people's video when they're explaining this. Their example should be different than yours, and I will give you some extra credit points if you were to go ahead and do that. So that, in a sense, will take you probably about 55 minutes altogether with the guided notes that we just went over today, with the 10 questions on the line, and then lastly, your Flipgrid. So keep in mind that even though we are learning distance-wise, you still need to make sure you have 55 minutes worth of instruction. So make sure you guys get that going. This is week 12, your Math Excel. It is due on Sunday by 11:50 p.m., 59 p.m. There is no assessment for this week 12 because we have Veterans Day. It's a 4-day week, but you do have your assessments from week 11. So make sure if you haven't done it, there is a penalty for late work, but you still have time to do that on AP College Board. All right, guys, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.